All right, okay, we finally figured out the technology and going live on YouTube. And as we have mentioned in our letters to all participants, if teachers or your friends would like to watch your speech for the second round, you have received the shareable link. And let's hope that they will be able to join us over through YouTube. And right now I will share quickly more about LCC and what kind of university we are. Right, so LCC is a North American style university in the heart of Europe. And we will be able to see the exact location right here, the country called Lithuania, one of the Baltic states located in Europe, and LCC is located in the city called Klaipėda. It's on the Baltic shore, and in fact, LCC campus is within the walking distance from the Baltic beach and from the city center as well. To give you more information about our educational model at LCC, an integral part of LCC's uniqueness is providing a North American style of education, but in the region of Eastern Europe. So all studies are in English. Professors are from United States, from Canada, Europe, and some other countries as well. And it also means the interactive classrooms, the attendance is mandatory, and engagement in the classroom and discussions with peers and professors as well. Liberal arts, our definition of liberal arts is takes into account the quantitative diversity of the coursework, but further emphasizes the importance of the student transformation. And we mean by that broad-based education. Students have electives and courses. They're able to take courses from other programs as well, and even electives within the major as well. But also outside of academics, we give a lot of opportunities for our students to improve and develop a lifelong learning skills that will be helpful and useful after the graduation of university. LCC is international, not only in our name, but in our community as well. At LCC, 80% of students are international, coming from nearly 60 different countries. And for the university size of 800 students, such the international community is very diverse, and we're very privileged and happy to be hosting all of these countries on campus at LCC. But also besides students, our professors, staff, and faculty come from various different countries as well. About 70% are international. Christian values and worldview at LCC as an institution, our worldview and vision is based on this religion, and most professors teach from this Christian perspective. But because we're international, we are open and we welcome everyone from various religious backgrounds, and we don't push our students towards any religion. We want to make university a safe place for respectful discussions, opportunity for students to explore their own beliefs and understand other people better, and at the same time fostering meaningful relationships between students, faculty, and staff as well. Diploma from LCC is accredited in European Union, which means that it's recognized worldwide. Doesn't matter the country you come from, the diploma will be recognized in your home country, or if you want to go to United States or to Asian countries or stay in Europe, you will be able to use your diploma. And the last point is relational. LCC is a relational university, and we believe that student transformation takes place within the context of community and within one-on-one relations. Our staff and faculty, they spend enormous time to get to know each and every student, their lives and their stories, as well, and their cultural traditions, including. For bachelor programs, we have 6 available: international business administration, students study management, marketing, economics, and finance. Second one is contemporary communications. Students focus on public relations, digital marketing, and communication theory like media literacy, propaganda, persuasion, and etc. Another one is English language and literature. It includes linguistics, teaching English, and also literature within the program. Our fourth bachelor's is international relations and development. Students in this major study political science, diplomacy, international relations, but also non-governmental organizations, advocacy, project management. Psychology is very broad program, and it includes everything starting from family counseling, ending with clinical psychology. And there are some courses like educational psychology, health psychology, neuro psychology, social psychology, marriage and family counseling, and the list goes on. We always tell people that if you want to work in psychology field, you would need to get master's after bachelor's as well. The last one, but not least, is theology. It teaches Christian literature, beliefs, ministry, philosophy, faith and culture related to Christianity. It's the smallest program we have, but yeah, there is great interest from student side. Besides bachelor's, there are 2 master's programs available: MA in International Management and MA in TESOL, otherwise teaching English to speakers of other languages. Both of them are 2 years of studies, and these are designed as a distance learning programs. Also, LCC provides full student campus, classrooms, residence halls for all international students, cafeteria, gym, sports center, and all library, and all is basically one area campus. And I will be able to show you a few pictures. Right, so this is the main building. It's called Defer. And these are the classrooms, library, administrative offices are located in this building. Student dorms, Anson Newman, they host all international students on campus, and we will be able to see the rooms from the inside. So I call them not dormitory, but more very small housing apartments, if we can call them that way. Each room has 2 bedrooms. The welcome area you can see here on the top right picture, bathroom in each room as well. And students are placed not by countries, just a mix, and you might end up living with completely different culture and tradition and background, students from different backgrounds. Also, on each floor, their kitchen is available, and a lot of our students, they do like to cook their own meals, so it's always open and available to use. But if you don't like to cook or you don't know how to, a cafeteria is available on campus, and it's located in Michelson Center, again, just outside of the dorms, and the prices and the meals are tasty. All right, the Michelson Center also hosts a sports facilities, professional basketball court. LCC has professional female and male teams, and every year we do audition students to be part of the team. Also, LCC gym is available for students and staff and faculty. Outside of academics, Student Life hosts all sorts of different events, programs, and clubs available for students. As you can see on the screen, there are more than 20 clubs open. They're all created and run by LCC students. If you see that there is no club that you would want to be part of, you are always welcome to talk to our student council office and invite other students to join and maybe create your own. There are also 9 leadership programs, and they are designed to provide a leadership training to our students. And it's more of an internship type programs on campus and within the Student Life department. And of course, there are different annual events and initiatives, and including sports as well. Besides basketball, we have soccer team on campus too. Exchange programs, all LCC students can go to exchange through 2 different programs. Erasmus Plus, it's a program designed for all European countries with all their partner universities. You can go for 1, sometimes for even 2 semesters as an exchange. International exchange program is with 5 countries: China, Georgia, Indonesia, South Korea, and United States, again for 1 semester, and there is a selection process, application, recommendation, motivation, GPA, everything takes into account. Work and career, a lot of our students, they like to be investing in their own education and helping their families to pay for their studies. Thus, we provide on and off campus working opportunities for all students. For off-campus, now it's easier to find a job even without knowing the local language, but depending from the position and the job type, you might be asked if you know Lithuanian or not. During the summer, work and travel, United States is one of the most popular programs to go to US for 4 months in the summer, from May to August. That's the summer vacation at LCC, and there are no studies during summer. And of course, there are different internships that are paid in Klaipėda, the city that we're located in, but also you can take any in the summer within Europe or in your own home country too. BA application deadlines for coming fall intake. The early application deadline is February 15, over the next week, and the late application is May 15. However, we always tell our applicants, the earlier you apply, the higher chances you have of getting the decision if you're admitted or not, and also opportunity to apply for financial aid as well. We have 2 intakes. Second one is for spring. You can see the deadlines are in October and November. After graduation of high school, if you want to take a little break and then apply for spring semester, you're more than welcome. The application processes are exactly the same. If you're interested, you can actually get in touch with us and we will guide you through the entire process. MA application deadlines are for August, February 15, and May 15. How to apply? Now, this is the process only for bachelors, or mainly for bachelors. It's very easy. You fill out an application through lcc.lt website, and you would have to attach all the required documents, such as TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo test results, and you can see the requirements on the screen. Submit high school grades for the last 3 years of your studies. And it's okay if you haven't graduated from high school yet. You can provide us your current transcripts, everything you have until this point. And if you get admitted, you would get a conditional acceptance, and then you would be required to submit your diploma later. Once we get those documents, then you would be invited for an interview with admissions committee, again, online through Zoom or Skype, and it's only 30 minutes. And depending from which country you come from and where you have gotten your high school education, there might be some country-specific requirements, additional, but that we'll be able to tell you once you start filling out the application. Tuition fees for next academic year, tuition is 3,360 euros for bachelor studies. And Prime, you can see Prime is a prerequisite intensive module of English, and Prime students get 50% discount for tuition automatically. You can see this the price on the screen. And to, I guess, explain it a little better, if you have taken Duolingo, TOEFL, IELTS, and if your score is a little bit lower than the requirement for bachelors, don't get upset. You can still fill out the application and send us your results. You might be eligible to study at Prime program at LCC. It's an intensive English program to prepare you for bachelor levels. It can be 1 semester or 2 semesters, depending from your progress. And living on campus in residence halls is about 120 euros per month. Financial aid is available. More than 60% of our students, they do financial aid, they do receive it. And there are various types of scholarships, grants available, depending from which country you are and your current financial state. You will be able to apply for one or another financial aid discount. Apply for financial aid on an annual basis. Since, again, the financial situation changes and we provide our students with working opportunities as well. So then we'll have to recalculate certain things. But keep in mind that financial aid is available only for tuition costs. This means that for housing on campus, your visa, travel expenses, living expenses, you would have to still pay yourself. If you don't want to study at LCC and you just want to get an experience or get connected to LCC in a shorter terms, then you might consider gap year or summer program. It's available for academic credits, your summer internship or volunteering positions as well. If you want to just use the opportunity to travel in Europe as well. Our annual program for summer is SLI, Summer Language Institute, as 3 weeks intensive English program. Again, students are placed in different levels of English and basically to improve their English language knowledge. Okay, if you have gotten any questions throughout this presentation, and if we were able to spark an interest in you in studies at LCC, please don't hesitate to contact us, study@lcc.lt. It comes straight to admissions office, or you can even scan this QR right now. And always, you can visit LCC website, get more information, and start your application process. All right, so that was the end of the presentation about LCC, and we can move on to our second round. Give me a few seconds to find out the finalists from each heat, and I'll get. All right, I think we have gotten the list of finalists from each heat, and I will now share my screen for you guys to be able to see the finalists, and then we will move on to the round 2. All right, so the finalists from the first round for this competition from heat A are Daniel Gao. I hope I will pronounce your names correctly. Congratulations, Daniel. Namisha De. Well done. Kishikbuyan Bulorchulun. And Alexander Pierce. Well done, guys. From Heat A, you are now moving on to the round 2. Let's see our finalists from another team. Okay, Luke Stonehouse, good job. Eli Gravidel. Again, I'm sorry if I'm messing up your names. It's hard with international names. Wesley Chan. Well done, guys. All of you, 7 of you, are now in this round 2, and we will be able to explain you the rules once again. And I guess we will start. So for the round 2, you will be asked to present your speeches again. And then we will, at the end, we will choose 3 or 4 winners who will then be going to the final international competition on March 2nd. Okay, it's gonna be exactly the same as the first round. We'll introduce the presenter. At the end, our judges will be able to ask questions if they have any. If you hit 5 minutes, we will unfortunately have to stop you and move on to our next speech. If everything is clear, then let's go ahead and start. I will just randomly, I guess, choose who will be presenting. Let's start with Alexander Pierce.
Just checking that everyone can see me and hear me properly.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Pierce, and today I'll be presenting you my speech, Language and the Power of Words. Hello, everyone. I want you to imagine that for one day, you could speak and understand every language in the world. In addition to that, you could go wherever you wanted. Where would you start? Somewhere you've always wanted to visit? A culture, perhaps, that you've always wanted to experience? The opportunities and adventures that await would be enough to fill many, many different lifetimes. Now, I hate to break it to you, but unless you decide to learn every single language out there, then this probably will never happen. But that's the power of language. It can create marvelous things, but at the same time, it can destroy them. Words can inspire culture and movements to emerge from nowhere. But words can also hurt and devastate. The ability to speak different languages is the most powerful asset that you can have. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Now, all of us have been exposed to different cultures, languages throughout our lives. Some of us can even speak 2 or more languages. And as I mentioned before, maybe your admiration and love for some place has inspired you to learn their language. Whatever the reason, your journey down that pathway would undoubtedly have exposed you to different foods, celebrations, destinations, and most importantly, people. Think of our voices as like an instrument. We all know how to play them. Some of us play loudly and boldly, while others play more soft and more reserved. But to truly create a beautiful masterpiece, many different tones and sounds are required. Language is the basis on which culture is founded on. Such interconnectedness between language and culture, however, causes us to react differently in situations. Different cultures have different values, it's perfectly understandable. But when 2 cultures fail to agree to something, language is what remains. A prominent example of this on a worldwide scale is the United Nations and multiple other intergovernmental organizations that exist. And while we watch world leaders speak to one another, there are hundreds and hundreds of people behind the scenes translating speeches from one powerful person to another. And without the work of these brilliant people, nations would never be able to effectively communicate. And like I said at the beginning, those people once had that passion, that imagination to learn a language, and look where it got them. Now, what about you and I? Not all of us are going to become world-class translators that can impact the decisions of nations. But don't let that undermine the benefits and experiences that language can bring you. It's proven that learning another language drastically improves your analytical and social skills, making you a more well-rounded person. Languages make us more tolerant and open-minded to new ways of solving problems and getting through our lives. A new language forces us to reflect on our way of doing things and whether there is a better method. It is the path to becoming a more global citizen. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something really big for me. I want you to take a step back and consider your whole life just for a moment, just one moment. Now, picture a moment in your life that you treasure dearly. It could be meeting someone, getting married, or it could even be something small, such as completing your goals for today. And on the other hand, reflect on something that made you upset. Losing someone, not getting a job you wanted. Now take both of these things that you've imagined and reflected on, and you can link both exactly back to language and culture. Nations across the world deal with ups and downs differently, and you've likely just experienced your whole life through the lens of one culture and one language. And seriously ask yourself, if there are hundreds and thousands of ways to experience the things that you do daily, why not open your eyes to a different way of thinking, a different way of solving the mystery of self-fulfillment, bringing your culture and another and blending them together to experience the opportunities that life has. What's the key to this? Learning a foreign language. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you, Alexander. And your time was 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And we can move on to our questions, if there are any from judges.
I do have one. It's the second time I'm hearing yours, but I just wanted to ask, when was a time that your eyes were open to a new way of thinking or a different way of thinking based on cultural aspect, I guess, things, when you were engaging or learning or speaking with somebody from another culture?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Now, I've actually never been overseas, so all my experiences with dealing in foreign languages has been from my home country. So that actually puts me in a different way of experiencing cultures. Now, I come from a Greek background, so a different way of thinking and culture that I've experienced is that my grandparents are Greek, and I go over to them every single year. And because they actually themselves can't speak English, they can only speak Greek to me, which has actually helped me learn the language myself. I'm sort of living in two worlds where I go to school and I experience where I come from, Australian culture, and a lot of Australian people. And then I'm transported to a household where it's completely different. So perhaps a new way of thinking that I've learned is that despite the fact that we're such an international community, in our countries are also quite international as well. And it's such an important thing to consider that despite the fact that you can call yourself, I'll call myself Australian, you can call yourself American, whatever, that within your country, there are many different ways that you can experience different cultures. Yes, I think that's something that has opened my eyes up and I've experienced. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? Gretchen, Nora, Douglas.
I was going to ask Alexander, do you speak and understand Greek?
So because I've never been overseas, I've never actually experienced the culture directly, but I have actually taken some, I can speak to them in a basic conversation. And along with that, I've also learned some other languages such as German, but I can't speak them 100% fluently, but I can hold a conversation, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all the questions. And if we don't have any more questions, okay, I can see from judges saying that yes, we can move on. All right, thank you, Alexander. Well done. And our next speaker is Wesley Chan.
Hi everyone, I'm Wesley. I'm from Australia and my speech title is Linguistic Freedoms. 4 years ago, in a world before COVID, I found myself standing face to face with my grandpa. He was visiting from China on a holiday trip and decided to stop by in Melbourne to see us. It had been almost a decade since he last visited. I still remember those first words he said to me at that family reunion. He said, 小孩子这么大了. I stared back at him blankly. We stood there silently. At that moment, I realized that I couldn't understand him. Since that interaction with my grandpa, I knew I had to do something about the embarrassment I felt, about the frustration of not being able to speak to my own grandpa. I spent 2 years in middle school studying Chinese, and in my spare time, I visited art galleries and museums to read more about my culture. I came to learn that my grandpa was commenting on how much I've grown since the last time he saw me. In reflection, it is a shocking reality of how quickly first-generation immigrants lose connection with their culture. But my personal identity crisis is a small fraction of how our world is gravitating away from tradition, and the value of heritage is slowly diminishing. This movement began during the Age of Discovery in the 15th century. The greatest impact that resulted from this time was the rise of colonialism, which still exists today. One effect of colonialism was the marginalization of minority languages. Those living under Britain's colonial rule were taught to read and write in English only. It was a method which claimed to educate, but was in fact a means of systematically eradicating entire cultures. Fortunately, we've come to understand just how morally incorrect this was. Natives were culturally oppressed by having their language rights taken away from them. English was imposed on them against their free will, and the youth were taught to reject their indigenous values for those of Britons. So if it's a question of whether learning a foreign language can solve this cultural conflict, I'd say it absolutely does. Instead of forcing others to speak our language, we should be trying to learn theirs. In support of this view, the United Nations created the Universal Declaration of Linguistic Rights in 1996. A document which outlined the freedom to communicate in any language of choosing. It states, different languages and different ways of speaking are not only means of communication. They are also the milieu, a person's social environment in which humans grow and cultures are built. This means that language and culture are intrinsically tied together. Therefore, denying one's language would be equivalent to violating their basic human rights. But it isn't just that simple. As a product of the colonial age, English has become too widespread, so widespread that it is a means of achieving a successful career. In the 21st century, the choice to learn English isn't really a choice anymore. So sure, mastering a foreign language as an English-speaking person can be beneficial, but I'd argue it goes both ways. What about those from other backgrounds which then must learn English? Take Singapore, for example. In 1987, it adopted English as an official language, given its importance for business, diplomacy, and technology. Their schools now use English to teach most subjects, including math, science, and guess what? Even their own history. This decision was made by the government out of the interest for economic gain. But Singapore's language evolution is coming at a tremendous cost. Whilst the nation is increasingly getting better at their English, other traditionally spoken languages are slowly waning. Of the 4 official languages, English is by far the most prominent spoken in Singaporean homes, whilst Malay and Tamil barely combine to make just 1/10 of the population. Roughly 6,500 languages are still being spoken today, but sadly, more and more are on the path to extinction. Clearly, something must change. If we want to keep living in a culturally diverse world, we must protect minority groups, and it begins with their language. For any young person like me who has lost touch with their heritage, I urge you to reconnect with your culture. Although I can't say I've fully done so myself, I'm a whole lot closer than I was 4 years ago. I'm now able to have conversations with my grandpa, and he still likes to comment on how much I've grown. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you, Wesley. And again, any questions from judges?
I have a question or a comment or something. Thank you, Wesley, for a really interesting speech. And it just makes me think, you know, I'm an English language teacher, so I feel like in a way I'm part of this overtaking of the world that you described by the English language. But I'm wondering how, if you have any thoughts or read anything about how we as teachers, or even you as a young person with this experience, can encourage the learning and the valuing of these other languages and cultures.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'd say English is not necessarily a means of overtaking the world. I think there's many benefits to English. The history of English is a very beautiful history to learn. But I'll say, like, when I studied Chinese in middle school, that was something compulsory that our school made us everyone learn. And I think that's just one great example of how cultural acceptance can be manifested in schools.
Yeah, do you, I don't know, have you had opportunities to encourage your peers to, I mean, it sounds like the school makes you learn a language, but to encourage your peers to take it seriously, or as you said, to reconnect with maybe their cultural heritage?
Yeah, our school has a large percentage of our student body consists of people of multicultural backgrounds, such as those from China. We have international students that study at our school as well, just like LCC. And I feel like having this lived experience where each student, whether they be from another country or whether they're born from Australia, having this lived experience of every day sharing a classroom, sharing a meal with a student of a different background, I think it just has that natural way of spreading culturalism within the student body.
Yeah, and maybe your school even has some events or things that encourage students to share their culture.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Gretchen, for the question. Do we have any other questions for Wesley? Judges, yes, no? No, seems like no. Okay. All right. Then we move on to our next speaker, Kishik Buyan Bolorchulun.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kishiboyan Babachutung, and I'm from Mongolia. And the title of my speech is Preserving Indigenous Cultures Through the English Language. Now beginning 3, 2, 1. My country, Mongolia, is a landlocked country sandwiched between Russia and China. And it has served to have unique diplomacy for centuries. And the key to such diplomacy has and always will be language. Skipping a few hundred centuries, the collapse of the Qing dynasty in 1912 allowed Mongolia to fight for its independence from the newly formed Republic of China. With the aid of the USSR, Mongolia finally gained its independence, marking the beginning of Soviet influence in our country. During that time, the Russian language was held in high regard. Every knowledgeable person had been able to speak Russian. Schools had mandatory Russian classes. Russian speakers would get a higher pay. However, the fall of the Soviets in the late 1980s marked the beginning of democracy in Mongolia. But we couldn't just simply change our ways of communism in an instant. We didn't know where to begin. And so that's how the English language, with its Western roots and ideals, helped shape our democracy. So starting the early 2000s, English replaced Russian and became the most desirable foreign language for the younger generations. We all know that English is the global language for communication, or rather, the lingua franca. It is the language for international business, diplomacy, education, science, and technology, just to name a few. It is the gateway language for more opportunities for developing countries like Mongolia, with a small population of 3 million people, give or take. My country learned about democracy through its English language. But other than that, the English language also plays a vital role in protecting endangered languages and indigenous communities. For example, my country has a myriad of different ethnic cultures. Among them are the Doha tribe, the Tsata, one of the last few groups of reindeer herders in the world. In the pre-COVID era, the reindeer people would be a popular destination spot for tourists around the globe, becoming an exchange point for inter-civilizational dialogue and culture. And as a result, there are multiple articles about them in well-recognized sources, such as the National Geographic, The Guardian, and the New York Times. But with the younger generations looking more and more towards domestic life in the city, only about 40 families continue this tradition. With unregulated mining and pollution coming towards their doorsteps, the state not even caring about these communities, and climate change looming along the horizon and damaging their ecosystem, the Tsata are undoubtedly an endangered community. And because they are endangered, many big-name organizations, such as the United Nations, talk and advocate for these indigenous people worldwide. They pass bills to ensure these people are being talked about. Otherwise, these unique communities would have been ignored and left to face cultural assimilation at the hands of their own governments. Although the English language, with its continuous globalization, may seem a threat to indigenous communities, English speakers are undeniably providing exposure to these unique languages and cultures to the rest of the world, making sure that they're not forgotten. Because if a culture dies, not only does the language follow suit, but also entire civilizations, people, and a unique perspective on the world die along with it. Language isn't just plain communication. It's a way of understanding the inner workings of different worldviews through the lens of different cultures. And if we lose more of these cultures, what would we become? Languages are preserved and evolved through the people who speak them. So in order to prevent language death, we must actively educate ourselves about these languages and cultures. And only then can we save indigenous heritage around the world. But most importantly, to save the historical knowledge that dies along with that language. Because after all, ladies and gentlemen, languages enrich our experiences as humans and result in more solutions to the challenges we face today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Keshikbuyan, for the presentation. And once again, from the judges, any questions you're welcome to ask.
I did have a question. No one else has. Do you think it's enough? Is exposure enough to preserve a language, or do you think there needs to be something else besides just articles in National Geographic and so on?
Thank you for the question. So, there are having exposure is only the first step to this problem, because without exposure, we wouldn't even know that these languages were dying, and it would be just a very quiet extinction. However, by providing exposure and a lot of people who actually connect with this same problem worldwide, a lot of these people are creating these initiatives, these programs, these nonprofits in order to save and preserve these languages. For an example, there's Inky Gibbons. She was a Buryat Mongolian, whereas she now lives in London. And she has created she has created an application to save to make people learn these endangered languages worldwide in order to preserve these, because in the future these languages would have been lost, and a lot of the different worldviews would have been gone along with them. So I believe that this is only the first step, and by humans actually connecting and learning from each other, we can create even more initiatives and keep preserving these languages.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Nora, Douglas, Gretchen? Seems like no. Okay, thank you, Kishikbuyan. And if judges need the timing, I think I forgot for the last two of our presenters. Kishikbuyan was 4 minutes and 50 seconds, and Wesley Chan was 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, and we can move on to our next presenter, Eli Gravidel.
Hi. Am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi everyone. Again, I'm Eli Gravidel from Iran, and my title of speech is The Justified Peace Path.
Go ahead, Ella, you can start.
Oh, okay. In the 1960s, IPSC got a very negative response. Why? Because the wars was as a result of a mistranslation. Mokusatsu said Suzuki, the then Japanese prime minister, as a response to the given ultimatum that wanted Japan's unconditional surrender, and stated that.
Eli, I'm so sorry. The internet was a little bit off at the beginning. If you can start over once again, that would be great.
No problem. So is that okay right now?
Yes, now it seems to be fine.
Okay, so I'll start over again. Pepsi got a very negative response. You know, only a nuclear weapon was used was as a result of a mistranslation. Mokusotsu said the then Japanese Prime Minister Suzuki, as a response to the ultimatum that would result in prompt and utter destruction. And guess what? Foreign media interpreted the word mokusatsu as ignorance, while Suzuki meant withholding comment, the second meaning of the word mokusatsu. The result? The warners got so mad by the mistakenly interpreted indifference by Japan, and 10 days later, atomic bomb was launched on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and we all know the aftermath. This is exactly how misunderstanding leads to conflict. There is no doubt that conflict resolution relies heavily on word choice, and it is crucial that the words you choose add to the aesthetics of the discourse. Moreover, learning a language shapes your cognitive, which means the more you dive into a language, the better you get in resolving conflicts, because you better express yourself and convince the other. So with that being said, and as this competition implies, in today's truly globalized world, too much emphasis is put on mastering a foreign language. So to get a notion of a role of language in resolving conflicts, let's firstly see what conflict is. According to Merriam-Webster, conflict is a difference that prevents agreement. Is that difference language? Of course not. It is the speakers of the language and the way they perform it that creates these differences. Indeed, it is totally up to us whether to nail a conflict by mastering the language or failing it by misinterpreting the language. But you need to pay close attention to the point that you cannot be bilingual unless you're bicultural and vice versa. Even though language and culture are so intertwined, none of them all alone is enough in resolving conflicts. And in fact, in order to master a foreign language, you need to also master its culture. And to master a culture, you need to master its language. Why? Because people from different cultures perceive the world through the lens of their distinctive folklore. So got the point? Yes. So to wrap it up, in order to succeed in conflicts, and especially international conflicts, you need to communicate effectively. And to communicate effectively, you need to master both language and culture simultaneously. But why I call mastering a foreign language the justified peace path? It is because I hear many people complaining that that particular language, say English, is not their mother tongue or national language, so they need to put extra effort in learning them. And they're right. They're absolutely right. But wait a minute. Who says life is fair? Look at it at this way that you fortunately at least have the power to eat that frog and change the situation. Actually, no matter what your profession is, whether you're an entrepreneur, a journalist, or a teacher or a worker, you need to master that foreign language. Or someday, somewhere, you would end up being responsible for a terrible disaster, ranging from getting fired because of ruining a company's reputation altogether, or claiming thousands of lives just because of a stupid mistranslation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eli. That was great. And your time was 4 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay, questions from judges?
I think I have two questions. The first one is, even the second time you started your speech, we still had a little bit of freezing of the internet. And I'm so wanting to understand this story that you told at the beginning. So I understood that there was a mistranslation that led to one party becoming angry and thus dropping the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Can you say again who was involved and what was the misunderstanding?
Yeah, at one side, like obviously was China, Russia, the UK, and the US, and the other side was Japan. And the Prime Minister of Japan, like, you know, the ultimatum that these four countries gave to Japan, that if in case Japan refuses to surrender to these countries, they would like end up, you know, having a terrible, horrible war. And yeah, that's how it go. And the prime minister used a word that had two meanings, and the, you know, foreign media interpreted as a first meaning, while the prime minister, based on historical records, meant the second meaning, which was, you know, withholding comments.
Okay, thank you. Whew. That, yes, that is a misunderstanding with huge consequences. And my other question was, can you just explain a little bit more about in your title, you have the justified peace path. Can you explain your use of the word justified? How is that connected to this?
I was inspired to use this word because of the community I'm living in. You know, as the president of the student council of my school, I try a lot to encourage the students to learn, especially English, if they are not willing to learn other languages, at least English. But the most of the time, I'm being told that if we were born an English speaker, like if we were born in London or if we were born in the United States, we could have learned that English thing easily with no effort. And this is the time I, answer them that life is not fair, and you need to create that fair and justify your ideal life in this unfair world. And that's why I use the phrase the justified peace path.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thanks for listening.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Eli, for the presentation, even though we had some tech problems. Okay, we need to move on to our next presenter, Namisha De from India. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, ma'am. Give me a minute. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'll start. Give me 2 minutes. There's a lot of background noise. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm starting now. Guten Morgen, Kalimera, Konnichiwa, Hola, Bonjour. When an individual speaks more languages, it sounds mellifluous to our ears, does it not? This is because language is the key to the heart of the people. Learning a new language not only gives us knowledge, but also helps us in understanding the sentiments, emotions, and griefs of that individual. Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. I am Namisha De of D.Y. Patil Dhyan Shanti School, Pune, India. Today, I will be elaborating my idea on the topic, he who knows no foreign language knows nothing of his own. People speak several different languages across the whole world. Each one of them different in their own unique way. Some have similar dialects, while others are so different that they have a hell and heaven difference. For example, when we visit different countries or even different continents, we do not understand the language that they speak. It is so different from the language that we speak, or perhaps the dialect in which we speak, that we are unable to make a connection. There are umpteen cognitive benefits of multilingualism, like it boosts your brain power, it sharpens your mind, it provides better career choices, it improves your first language, you build multitasking skills, and it improves your memory. Now, onto the topic of conflict. One of the major factors behind conflicts breaking out is miscommunication, misinterpretations, lack of acceptance towards other dialects, etc. Not knowing or understanding a person's language may result in rage due to baseless pretensions and may end up taking a chaotic form. If we probe into the topic of conflict, we see that there are 4 types of conflict. Social conflict. Social conflict is the struggle for agency or power in society. Social conflict occurs when 2 or more people oppose each other in social interaction. Political conflict. It can be defined as the conflict between 2 legal entities. They may be countries, nations, states, regions, or even a group of nations. For example, the conflict between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu for the water resource of the river Kaveri in India. Educational conflict. If we go to a foreign country to study and do not know the language that they speak, it would lead to conflict. Misunderstandings are bound to take place. which in turn leads to conflict. And lastly, economical conflict. Brexit is the name given to the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union. It is a type of economical conflict. Conflict that involves trading is economical conflict. To learn a new language is to have one more window from which to look at the world. Someone had once said, only 3% of the people around the world can speak more than 4 languages, and they have helped us connect, helped us become one. It is time to expand our horizons, thereby exploring the world, reaching every corner across the globe, mastering their language, and making them feel as a part of this world of 7 billion people, and treat every human being with humanity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Namisha. And your time was 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Now we can move to questions from judges.
I was just curious about the title of your speech. He who knows no foreign language knows nothing of his own. How do you connect this with the content of your speech?
So, ma'am, as I informed in the speech earlier, that it falls as a part of the cognitive benefits of learning a foreign language. It improves your first language skills as well. So, for example, we want to say something in the language that we're learning. So, if we do not know that, if we do not know the reference it has to our language, to our first language, we are unable to understand exactly what it would mean, because we are learning the foreign language. It's a foreign language, right? So it's not exactly something we're very proficient in. So if we cannot connect that language to our mother tongue, to our language, it's gonna be like very confusing.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, Kate. Do we have any other questions?
I'll ask a question about conflict. You gave 4 definitions or 4 types of conflict. In your experience, do you see conflict as positive, negative, neutral? How would you see the impact of conflict?
Conflict may have many influences on people. Some are positive, some are negative. For example, in social conflict, like when 2 people are actually struggling for the power in society, they may attack each other, which is a negative effect of conflict. It injures people and it harms them. And not only that, but for the positive effects of conflict, conflicts may take place due to to bring about a change. For example, there may be there may be many groups of people who want something to take place to bring about a change in society. So they would oppose the people who are in power in order to make that change in society. So it also falls as a type of conflict, but it has a positive effect that they want to change society for the better.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we can move on to our next speech. Thank you, Namisha, once again. Our next presenter is Luke Stonehouse.
Hello. Today, the title of my speech is Mastering a Foreign Language is Beyond the Words. I will begin my speech now. What is the key quality that separates us from the rest of being on Earth? What is the quintessential difference between us and the blue whale in the depths of the Pacific Ocean to the minuscule tree frogs jumping between leaf to leaf in the rainforests? What makes us Homo sapiens distinctively different? It's the gift of articulate language. Most animals only have basic language, where misunderstanding is all too common. They resort to violence and physical means to settle disputes within and between species. However, as I stand before you today, it is the eloquence that we're able to present in conversation between you and I. Our detailed extent to which we can speak is our greatest asset to conflict resolution. But oh, how times have changed. Bygone are the days of our ancestors living in small communities and their only connections being that of neighbouring towns and not needing to speak a foreign language. Now we live in a world where from my Apple Mac, designed in California, made in China, shipped to Australia and sitting on a desk from Sweden, I'm speaking to you today. As humanity has evolved, thousands of languages have become the dialect of our ancestral small villages. But today, we are finally now able to speak with these villages, cultures, and nations in the modern day globalized world. But this presents an immense issue, as we do not all speak one dialect. And when this comes to conflict resolution, as nations continue to intertwine between trade agreements, disputes of land, and other issues, not everyone speaks the same language. And in the globalized world, it is imperative that nations can communicate with each other. And this is where the power of learning a foreign language is critical in the globalized world, as we are required to negotiate with many cultures and nations that speak different languages to our own. Nelson Mandela once said, "If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart." Simply learning a foreign language is a necessity to modern discourse. However, we need to learn beyond the words. Mastering a foreign language incorporates understanding of another's culture, religious views, and historical backgrounds to understand how to talk to someone as well as how to interpret what they've said. A successful negotiator understands this, as in discussion this will change how they speak and how they interpret one's motivations, subtle meanings behind words, and overall context. For example, a country who's been ravaged by war for years may understand conversations differently from countries who have not experienced as many wars, when discussing violent disputes, potentially being more wary of conflict emerging. Groups may commence discussions on completely different bases due to their principles and views, which will all need to be taken into account to achieve a successful resolution, such in the cases of people's religions. And most importantly, we need to be mindful of others' differences, as even though discussion may be in the same language, we may hold many different views and beliefs and a different understanding within a language due to our own religious views, historical and cultural backgrounds. And this applies not just to international conflict resolution, but also our day-to-day interactions. And well, you might say that today we still have disputes, even with interpreters and the ability to speak a foreign language and understand one another's cultures. Which is true. The problem is that even with linguistic understanding of other nations, a lot of nations have competing interests which cannot be easily resolved. There will always be obstructive groups of people, competing interests, and varying ideologies. But mastering a foreign language will take us a long way further to a peaceful resolution. Mastering a foreign language is beyond the words. It's the nuances to phrases that can vary significantly between languages. It's the subtle meanings between words. It's the emotion you can carry in speech, and it's the cultural differences and expectations associated with words that varies incredibly. And this is the hardest but most important barrier to overcome, to holistically understand a language and to be able to communicate productively. Because once we enhance our cultural awareness of the person or nation we're dealing with, beyond simply understanding the words of their language, then we have mastery of their language. And then we will be able to discuss matters and conflicts with greater understanding, empathy, and consideration to hopefully develop a peaceful and mutually beneficial resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Luke. And your time was 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Now questions from judges.
Thank you, Luke. I would like to ask you if you have had any experiences in mastering or trying to master a foreign language, and how that has helped you personally.
Yeah, let me set the scene. 3 years ago, I went to Germany. Myself, being lactose intolerant, I needed to find lactose-free milk. This was a challenge, as whilst I was in Germany, I needed to work out what lactose-free was in German. Luckily, at the time, at my school, I'd been studying German, and I continue to study German to this day. That also links to my cultural heritage as being German as well. So, in a bit of German language and a bit of mixed English, I was able to communicate with foreigners on the border between Belgium and Germany to successfully get lactose-free milk so I could have my cereal in the morning. So that was one of the times that I was able to use a foreign language and attempted to master it when I was much younger to successfully resolve a situation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, which is good, because if you don't have that, even partial mastery, it's very easy to get upset with your interlocutors, to think that they are not, maybe they're purposely thwarting you or not understanding you, but if you can communicate in their language, you have a better chance. Yeah.
Thank you, Gretchen, for your question. Do we have any other questions for Luke? Seems like no. Okay. Thank you for your speech once again. And we move on to our final speaker for the second round, and it will be Daniel Gao.
Hi, my name is Daniel Gao from Melbourne, Australia, and I hope you enjoy my speech titled Talking to Strangers. If I had to name one thing that I absolutely cannot stand, it'd be getting disturbed in public. When I'm sitting in a train carriage, earphones in ears, gazing out the window, bathing in the comfort of tranquility, the absolute last thing I'd want is for an unwelcome guest to place themselves beside me and force me into an awkward introduction. I despise these needless conversations, these gratuitous interactions, and I hate talking to strangers. But as Greek storyteller Aesop famously noted, every truth has two sides. It is as well to look at both before we commit ourselves to either. A defining feature of our species is our ability to communicate, to vocalize our thoughts, our beliefs, our stories, and to pass them on to one another. But that's under the assumption that there's someone on the other side willing to listen. In our modern day and age, every feature that is supposed to make us unique has become a basis that divides us. Whether it's through our skin color, our values, or our culture, we've sought for every reason to separate rather than unite, to discriminate rather than seeking a common language between one another. And it is solely because of me, because of millions of those like me that resort to frustration and hostility as a terrible excuse for our futile efforts at talking to strangers. Conflict resolution, in its essence, is founded on two fundamental principles: the ability to understand and the willingness to listen. After all, it's not enough to hear the words but not internalize the message. And conversely, it's not enough to be empathetic when you simply don't care for their opinions. But it's this simple concept, this fragile harmony between the two, that has been lost, buried in the discord of humanity's conflicts. What does political discrimination, cancel culture, racial prejudice, some of modern society's most embarrassingly dire issues have in common? It's blatantly obvious and laughably simple. The presence of a stranger. Someone with differing beliefs, unique customs, and distinct appearances. And it's these strangers that have been stripped of their voice and their freedoms. And it's up to us to restore the path towards conflict resolution. But how do we go about doing that? Well, we must first start with ourselves. We must find the circumstances that births our ignorance, whether it's getting disturbed in public or struggling to communicate with someone of a different nationality. We must become a bridge to promote mutual understanding rather than divide and be a bystander, which could mean mastering a foreign language and learning of their culture and of their people. And we must become a medium that epitomizes the will to listen, to take the beliefs, the ideas, and the values that have been lost in the discord of conflict and bring them an audience that they deserve. Not necessarily to agree, but certainly to acknowledge. By facing the discomfort of confronting different perspectives, of talking to strangers, we can together build a path towards conflict resolution and inspire others along the way. And the next time a stranger sits next to you on the train, introduce yourself, shake their hand, and be the difference to a more harmonious society. Thank you.
All right, that was great, Daniel. Thank you. And your time was 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Okay, and once again, we move on to questions.
I had a question come to mind as you were speaking. Daniel, what about those times you had this phrase, bring an audience that the other party deserves? What about when it's a very horrible perspective that person has? Or like these sort of people who are, worst of society sort of people.
Right. And then with that, I guess we're getting into the territory of what does freedom of speech actually mean?
Yeah.
Does that mean that we can express
Yeah.
hate, hate speech? Does that mean that we allow for racism if that's what people truly believe? And personally, I think this is a very subjective matter. I feel like this is really dependent on what people feel like freedom means to them. If someone is very human rights activist, if someone really believes in their fundamental freedoms, I feel like they think that this is something that's a privilege to them. And personally, I'd be leaning slightly towards that as well. I feel like in one day and age, we're getting to a point where the things that people are saying is being criticized slightly too much. Whereas I feel like every sort of conversation should be exactly that, a conversation, not just a place to put someone on a pedestal just to judge what they say as being right or wrong based on our personal metrics, because that's exactly what our metrics are for. We're biased to what we believe. And of course, there's going to be conflict in that. But by giving people the opportunity, even if it's not necessarily something that we agree with per se, I feel like by saying them, acknowledging that there are people that think that way, I feel like ultimately, if we can grow to accept that and to even learn from an experience like that, it will help further us as a society and as humans.
Okay. Thank you, Kate, for your question. Do we have any other questions?
Thank you again, Daniel. In the earlier heat, we talked a little bit about Malcolm Gladwell and his book Talking to Strangers, and I just wanted to follow up on my earlier question and ask you, was there something particular in that book or in his writings that inspired you toward your speech topic?
Oh, that's great. I actually want to elaborate last heat as well, but I didn't get to. I was very sad.
Here you go. Here's your opportunity.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. But as I said before, the title of the speech is based on that book, which is a lovely book. I feel like everyone here should read it. Listen to the audiobook. It has some snippets of some very great things. But what Gladwell does is he puts all these examples of where humans have misunderstood each other in history, where it shows how poorly we are at just talking to other people, talking to people that we don't understand. And this shows up time and time again in history. I believe like the example he used was something to do with Hitler and Chamberlain, or was that in the UK? And he just used so many different examples. And with that, I feel like what really stood out to me from those examples is that we as humans have a long way to go. I know that I think Luke talked about it in his previous speech, how as other animals, other beings, they get into conflict a lot simply because they don't have the ability to comprehend one another, to understand each other properly. But even though we humans are given the gift of language, it's still somehow so difficult to understand one another. And it's intriguing why that is. And I think that's why the book is really good and why I use it as a title of my speech. And I really want to explore that point. I think that we have a long way to go before we can achieve a conflictless society or a more harmonious society. But with that being said, I do feel like we have room to grow, which is really hopeful for the future. And I think that if everyone can stay more open-minded, if everyone can give these strangers a chance to speak and a chance to like acknowledge what they're trying to say, I feel like that we can together, change how history has gone. And maybe one day we'll be the first species of animals to, surpass that barrier and live more harmoniously.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from Douglas or Nora? No? Okay. That was our last speech. Thank you, everyone. And I will kindly ask our judges to move to the breakout room. Let me quickly do the tech part. Can you guys, judges, see the pop-up window or it's not showing up? It's not showing up.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, I can see that our judges have moved to a breakout room and they will have about 10-15 minutes to make the decision and choose 3 or 4 finalists who will then take part on March 2nd. And until then, I would like to show some videos and share with you guys. Let me see. Okay.
The world is open and full of adventure, connected by hundreds of cultures and beliefs, fueled by the curiosity of young minds, and shaped by leaders brave enough to explore new ways of thinking and living. People who creatively solve problems and continuously reinvent themselves. We gather from around the world to live and study together. Our community forges friendships that last a lifetime and make the entire world feel like home. This is a place where motivation meets opportunity. Opportunity to live and study among different cultures of Europe, America, Asia, and beyond. Where curious minds learn how to solve problems creatively. Where we learn how to become a professional for a lifetime. A professional who is able to shift and adapt to the ever-changing reality We are LCC, a North American university in the heart of Europe, full of opportunities and adventure, a place to start. Take a brave step into the world. Join LCC International University.
Все будет хорошо, Лесенька.
All right. And we then move to our next video. Let me see if our internet works well. Okay. The next few videos are going to be virtual tours from our LCC students on campus, residence halls, and other facilities at LCC.
Hi, hello, welcome to LCC International University. I'm Anano from Georgia. I'm a senior student studying communications, and I'll be giving you a tour of the building and showing some of the most essential places in the building. So first, let's start with the classroom, because that's where most of the things happen for the students. And now, as you can see, it's kind of empty, but usually it's full of students, and a lot of interesting discussions take place in the classrooms. I'll be moving on to the reception. If you have any questions, if you forgot like in which classroom your class takes place, or if you're wondering if the class is cancelled or anything basically of that sort, you can always ask at the reception, and they will be happy to answer your questions. That's a place where a lot of students gather and just talk to each other and kind of pass their time. Another place where students usually hang out is the lounge behind me. And when students have classes, when students have breaks, between the classes, that's where they usually sit to just like chat and maybe get ready for a quiz, just scroll Instagram, anything, basically just to pass their time before the class. And oh, by the way, if you want to organize anything, maybe start a club, make an event, anything that you want to contribute to the LCC community, you can always come to student council and talk to the members, and they will do their best to help you figure things out. Now we're going to another student lounge. I actually like this one better because it's bigger and it has tables, so if you want to work on any of your papers and you have like a longer break between the classes, you can always do that. And oh, by the way, this is a very famous mirror. Like all of us have taken a selfie, a lot of them, yeah. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. That's all there is to say. And if you don't have your lunch with you and you have a longer break, you can always grab a snack. Not right now, so not always, because now it's empty, but in general, you want a snack, you can get it here. So now, if you also want to talk to your professors, if you have any questions regarding your paper, if you're not happy with your, grade, anything, you can always come here. Now we're going where, and I'll show you. Here are some of the offices of the professors. That's where they usually have lunch or just hang out, talk to each other. I was wondering if Andrew Jones was here, but he's not, and I have some questions about my thesis. Anyway, if you also have some questions about your paper, and if you're kind of not sure about your writing skills or anything, you can always come to Student Success Center. Okay, the stairs are killing me. But anyway, you can always come to Student Success Center. They have very competent, very, very helpful students working in the center, and they're always more than happy to help you. Let's go in there. Let's see if anyone's there. Math also, not just writing. So, hi. So this is Student Success Center. Usually it also has a lot of people in here, but not right now. So basically, that was it. There are way more places and way more rooms in the building, but I just don't have time to show you everything because I also have my thesis to work on. But I hope you guys enjoyed the tour, and I hope it makes you want to come to LCC a bit more than you did. I don't know. Anyway, thanks.
All right, yeah, and now we have prepared a little Kahoot game for everyone, for all the participants, and it is based on the information that we have presented for you earlier, everything connected to LCC, basically. Lydia?
Yeah. So if you're interested in having a little fun and playing a Kahoot game, join us online in just a few minutes. I'll start sharing my screen and showing you how you can join. So basically you need to go to the website kahoot.it, or if you already have the app installed on your phone, you can open the app. And once you go there, you'll need to enter the game pin. And for this one, it's 4729954, or you can scan the QR code that we have here on the screen as well. So once you join, you'll have to identify yourself and show your name so that we would know who is competing. And we'll just wait maybe a minute or so for people to join. I can also share this link in our chat on Zoom. So maybe it would be easier for you guys to join. Feel free to join if you want to play with us. I promise it's not a super difficult quiz. It's more fun and will help you learn a little bit about LCC. If you don't know many things, feel free to join us. So thank you those who have already connected. We'll wait for maybe one more minute and then we'll start the quiz. So if you're just joining, we are playing a Kahoot game, a quiz about LCC. And in order to enter, you need to go to the website kahoot.it, or open the app on your phone if you have one, and enter this game pin 4729954. All right, I think we're having quite a good group to start with. So last 30 seconds to join. If you want to join the quiz, please do. You see the joining instructions on your screen. So that should be easy enough for you to do. All right, so last 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's begin. So we'll be showing some questions here on the screen, and we'll be able to answer from your phones. So question number 1, LCC is located in which city? So the options are Kaunas, Kansas City, Kiel, or Klaipėda. So this picture over here is a great picture from the city that we are based in. I'll give you a tip. It's on the Baltic Sea coast. And it has a great name. So again, the options are Kaunas, Kansas City, and Klaipėda is the correct one, not Kiel. I think Kiel is in Germany. All right, so let's continue with the next question. And it is about the study model that we use at LCC. So our study model is best described as performing arts, free arts, and liberal arts. So if you were able to follow Rebecca's presentation, you'd know that it is liberal arts. And basically, it's an approach to education that is very common in the States and Canada, and it implies having a lot of freedom and flexibility in terms of choosing the courses that you study, and also studying different disciplines and not only those within your immediate area of specialization. All right, very well done, everyone. Let's continue. Oh, this is getting competitive. Great. So next question is a little bit harder. How many BA programs does LCC currently offer? So is it 4, is it 6, is it 8 or 10? So just to remind you, we are a small liberal arts university. We focus on a few areas that we believe that we offer very strong programs in, and those are 6 programs. So well done. Okay, tough competition. Let's continue. Question number 4. LCC has a full residential campus. So is it true or is it false? And a huge hint is on this picture that you currently see on your screens. And of course, it is true. So our academic, our sports, and now our residential facilities are all located in one place, which makes it very convenient and nice to live in and study, of course. All right, moving along to question 5. What is the name and the mascot of LCC basketball team? So you probably remember that we have a basketball team, actually 2, a male and a female one. So are they LCC Tigers, are they LCC Sharks, LCC Bears, and LCC Moose? So if you follow us on social media, on Facebook or Instagram, you should have seen plenty of posts about that. And believe it or not, we are called LCC Moose. So if you haven't had the chance to discover that, follow the games, find us on social media, and you'll find out lots of cool content. All right, this is getting very exciting. The competition is super tough. So the next question is going to be a breeze for you. So what is the language of instruction at LCC International University? So is it Lithuanian, is it English or Latin? And of course it is English, as we are an international university. All right, very well done, everyone. And we are ready for question 7. GPA, or grade point average, in which subject is counted towards your admission score? So again, if you were able to go to our website and find out more about our admissions requirements, you would know that we are considering your grades in some areas, and those would be specifically which ones? We are a liberal arts university. We do care about a specific set of subjects that you study at school, and those would be 50% of your admission score. This was a tough one. So we would be looking at English, math, history, and if English is not your first language, we'll be looking at your native language as well. All right. Okay. And we are continuing to the next question, question 8. What is prime? So I believe Rebecca has shared a little bit about this program that you can take in order to improve some skills related to your studies at LCC. And you need to choose the option that actually explains this acronym, prime. And of course, it is a prerequisite intensive module in English. So if you're interested in studies at LCC, but you need a little bit extra help with your English in order to polish your academic writing, reading, listening, speaking, then you can join Prime. And question number 9. How many students receive financial aid at LCC? So I guess you can guess. We have shared that we do offer financial aid at LCC. I would say a lot of students receive that. So it is possible to study at LCC even if you don't have a lot of money. So is it 64, 35, 40, or 57% of our student population? And just to remind you, we have students coming from more than 50 different countries, all come from various backgrounds. and we think it's important to offer everyone an equal chance in joining LCC, regardless of their academics. Oh, sorry, not academics, but financial situation in the family. Okay, it seems like this was a tough question for many, so let's see. All right, so 62%, more than half of our students actually receive financial aid. This is very exciting. Okay. Last question. What is the closest deadline to submit your BA application if you're interested in enrolling at LCC in the fall of 2022? So is it January, is it April, is it May, or is it February? And all of them are on the 15th. So like many universities in the US, and quite a few in Europe as well, we start our application process quite early. And we are already accepting applications. If you are interested in LCC, this is high time for you to apply. And the deadline is coming up when? Right, so the deadline for the application is February 15. So it's coming up very soon. And if you're interested in applying LCC, make sure that you go to our website today or tomorrow and fill out that application. Okay, very well done, everyone. So let's see who did the best. So Alexander, very well done. You are in the 3rd place in this quiz. Very done, well done, Christian. And who is number 1? Alexandra. Very cool. So thank you very much for joining this quiz. It was fun to play with you. And I guess we will be able to find out who is going to win this competition and go to the next round very soon. Before I give the word to Rebecca or whoever announces the winners, I just wanted to add from myself. Personally, I enjoyed all of your speeches very much. I think everyone has done an outstanding job. And even if you didn't make it to the 2nd round today, I am so thankful for you joining us. I think it was an amazing experience, and it was very, very difficult for our judges to decide. So once again, congratulations and very well done.
All right, thank you, Rita, very much for your kind words. And yes, we do have the list of winners from this round. And I think my colleague and representatives from Judges Kate will be announcing once I share my screen.
Okay, so yes, once again, thank you all of you for participating. It's obviously obvious that you've been working hard on this, and your hard work really shows. We did have such a hard time to decide who gets which place and who even gets to the final competition. So without any more delays, I would like to announce from the, which way? I guess, Rebecca, you can just show. Okay. So first place goes to Wesley Chen. So congratulations to you, Wesley. Thank you for your hard work. The second place goes to Daniel Gao. Thank you, Daniel, for your work. Then the 3rd place goes to Eli Ravedel. Thank you, Eli. And the last place goes to Kishikbuyan Bulorchulun. So you are the finalists who will go to the final competition on the 2nd of March, and you will get more instructions on what that means. It's late.
Okay, great. Yeah, well done, everyone. And congratulations on our winners. And we'll be seeing you on March 2nd. You will receive shortly after this competition the details and what to expect next and how to prepare. Watch out for that email. And yeah, I guess this is it. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and a huge appreciation. And thank you for the judges as well for dedicating your time and helping us to judge this competition. And this is it. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.